I never imagined a chance encounter with a janitor's daughter would change my life forever. I will never forget that rainy afternoon. I felt the air was thick, tangled with secrets. I leaned against the cold brick wall of the school, feeling small and lost, like a leaf caught in a storm. My heart hammered in my chest as the downpour drummed against the pavement. It was just another day of avoiding my own reflection, but that's when I saw her. She stood there, drenched, with dark clouds framing her face. Her eyes were sharp, like shards of ice, yet they shimmered with something fierce. I had never noticed her before, never given a moment to the girl who scrubbed the floors I walked on. "Why are you here?" I managed to ask, my voice barely audible over the rain. "Because it's better than being inside," she replied, tilting her chin defiantly. There was something about her spirit that flickered, igniting a spark I didn't even know I needed. I felt my pulse quicken. As we talked, I learned she wasn't just the janitor's daughter. She was a storyteller, weaving tales of forgotten treasures and shadowy alleyways. Her laugh had a way of cutting through the gray, turning the world into something vibrant and alive. I could almost taste the sweetness in her words. But there was a darkness too. I caught a glimpse of sorrow behind her laughter. An unspoken weight that made her shiver despite the warmth of our shared moment. I wanted to reach out, to understand her, yet I felt trapped in my own cage of fear. Just then, the door swung open, and a gang of kids spilled out, laughter echoing through the chaos. They didn't notice us, but I felt their sneers. My chest tightened as I watched how they surrounded us, their eyes filled with judgment. I could sense her pull back, instinctively wanting to fade into the background. "Come on, let's go," I whispered, even as my heart ached at the thought of losing this connection. "No. Not this time," she said, trembling slightly as she squared her shoulders. The fear in her eyes twisted something deep inside me. And then it happened, their words sliced through the air like daggers. "Look! The janitor's daughter is here, with the freak." Laughter erupted, hard and cruel. Tears filled my eyes. I couldn't take it. I turned to her, ready to fight back, but she only smiled softly, a mix of sadness and resolve. "They're wrong, you know," she said. "We're both more than what they see." Suddenly, the ground beneath me felt unsteady. I had never felt such a pull toward someone. No logic, no reason, just a chaos of emotions. Then, she reached out, her hand brushing against mine, and for a moment, the world fell silent. But just as quickly, the moment shattered. The kids pressed closer, their shadows engulfing us. And I could feel her slipping away, like smoke in the wind. I wanted to scream, to hold her tight, but fear held me back. And then, just before everything spiraled into chaos, she whispered, "There's something you need to know." The tension hung thick, waiting. I had to know. But what could be so urgent, so important? Before I could press her further, before I could grasp that fragile moment of clarity, she turned and bolted into the rain, leaving me breathless and confused. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The rain poured down relentlessly, drowning out the sounds of the world around me. I stood there, heart racing, watching her silhouette dissolve into the sheets of water. The laughter of the gang faded into the background, but her last words echoed in my head, a haunting melody of urgency that left me aching for answers. What could she possibly want to tell me? I stumbled after her, breathless and desperate. Every step felt like a lifetime as I pushed through the sheets of rain. "Wait!" I called out, but the wind swallowed my plea, leaving me hollow and unacknowledged. By the time I reached the edge of the school grounds, she was gone, lost to the storm that I felt the silence close in around me, heavy and oppressive. The laughter I once feared now felt like a cloak of loneliness draped over my shoulders. I longed to take back the moment, to stand there next to her, feeling that wild, unrestrained connection bloom between us. But in my hesitation, I had let her slip away. The days passed in a hazy blur. I returned to the same routines, the clamoring of hallways, the whispers behind my back, the mirror that reflected the doubts I couldn't shake off. But there was a flicker of something inside mesamething that didn't let me forget her. I found myself wandering the hallways after school, just hoping to catch another glimpse of her. I studied the classrooms as if some kind of answer lay buried in the mundane. I trapped myself in that longing, desperate for the moment our worlds had collided, and then, one evening, I saw her through the glass doors. She was at the far end of the hallway, mop in hand, lost in her own world as she cleaned. I approached her cautiously, heart pounding. "Hey," I said softly. She turned, and for a moment, we simply stood staring at one another, a fragile silence hanging between us. "Why did you run?" The question tumbled out, raw and aching. Her gaze dropped to the floor, a shudder passing through her. "Because I'm not what you think I am," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. There was a vulnerability in her tone that brought warmth to my cheeks. "What do you mean?" I pressed, wrestling with the need for her truth. She took a deep breath, and her eyes met mine again, like twin beacons piercing through the dark. "Sometimes, people can see right through you. It scares me." Her fingers brushed against the mop handle, a nervous habit. "I didn't want you to see my storm." That I stepped closer, willing the space between us to collapse. "I see you," I said, my voice steady. "I see the stories, the courage. You have to tell me what you wanted to say." But before she could answer, the mounting weight of her expression drew my attention. Her face had grown pale, illuminated by sudden panic. "You don't understand," she mumbled, backing away slightly. "This isn't just about us. There's more. You need to know me, or ally, know me before we can talk." "Then tell me." I felt a surge of frustration mingled with something deeper, a desire to protect her, to hold her and shield her from whatever demons haunted her. "That I can't. Not like this." Her voice trembled, and the mop slipped from her grasp, clattering against the tiles. It was a heart-wrenching sound that resonated deeply, and I instinctively reached for her, but she flinched back, eyes wide with fear that had nothing to do with me. A sudden commotion broke out in the hallway behind me, catchings of laughter and cruel taunts echoed off the walls. I turned, and my stomach twisted at the sight. The same gang I'd seen just days before was on their way, and I desperately sought to shield her. "Just ignore them," I urged, feeling the heat of their glares prick against my skin. "That I can't." She shook her head vigorously, gripping her mop like it was a lifeline, her expression flipping from anguish to determination. "I have to go. No, please." I reached for her, but she slipped away, dodging past me as if the storm had returned to swallow her whole. Her retreat left me reeling, a tornado of emotions swirling in my chest. I called her name, but the echoes swallowed my voice whole. What was she hiding? What fears lurked behind that courageous facade? As I stood there, the chaos of the hallway closing in around me, I sensed something shift in the air. A voice, sharp and cruel, cut through my thoughts. "Look who's alone again, freak and the nobody." The ringleader jeered, and laughter erupted like shattered glass around us. That laughter, the same that once made me wilt, now steeled my resolve. I turned back to the empty corridor where she had just fled, knowing I would not let this end here. I would find her and uncover everything, the unchecked pain, the hidden stories she clung to like whispers in the dark. But even as I gathered my strength, an unsettling feeling crept over me, a chilling doubt that perhaps the storm she braved was darker than I could comprehend. And just as that thought embedded itself in my mind, a flicker caught my eye. A crumpled note lay on the ground, caught in the puddles, glistening ominously beneath the flickering fluorescent lights. Without thinking, I bent down to retrieve it, the raindrops still drumming against the windows. As I smoothed it out, my breath caught in my throat. The words scrawled across the page held the weight of 1,000 worries, and the familiar scrawl sent chills down my spine. you will regret getting too close. Leave her alone. That my heart raced, leaping to the pit of my stomach. Who had written this? What threat lay hidden in the shadows that surrounded her? That moment, that note, was the beginning of a journey I never asked for, thrusting me into a world where love and danger danced a precarious waltz. And as the laughter faded into silence, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had unknowingly stepped into a much deeper storm, where the sacrifices would be much greater than I could have ever imagined. The days that followed were governed by an uneasy tension. Every moment felt thick with questions as I replayed that note in my mind, its message echoing ominously in the recesses of my thoughts. Who would threaten her? And why was I willing to risk everything for someone I barely knew? My heart thudded in conflict, stoking the embers of determination I could no longer ignore. That I looked for her at the times we once crossed paths after school, during lunch, even in between classes. My eyes darted through the crowd of students, searching for the mop in her grip, in desperate hope of meeting her gaze again. But every corner I turned, every face I peered at, was a reminder of the chasm that opened between us, one I wasn't sure how to bridge, until one afternoon, fate intervened in a fashion both cruel and kind. I was spinning idle thoughts of how to confront her when my phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Ava, a mutual friend who had seen our brief interaction, brought a flicker of hope amid the fog. Meet me at the cafe after school. You need to know what's happening. The cafe was a backdrop of warmth amidst the chilling uncertainty, a homey little place tucked between the old library and a bookstore. I arrived early, heart hammering and eyes scanning the entrance for any sign of her. This wasn't just about me anymore, it was about her, and the deeper shadows clawing at her. Ava walked in, pulling me from my thoughts. She was a whirlwind of energy, her vibrant personality brightening the dim corners of the cafe. You look like you've seen a ghost, she said, frowning with concern as she slid into the seat across from me. I am just worried about her, I admitted, my voice low and tight. Do you know what's going on with her? Ava took a deep breath, gaze dropping momentarily as if steeling herself for a hard truth. It's complicated. Her name's Mia, and she's been through a lot. Like what? My pulse quickened. Let's say her family isn't what you'd call loving. Her dad, well, he's not just a janitor. She leaned in, dropping her voice to a whisper. He has a temper, and he's known to cross lines. The kids at school have been awful to her about it, too. They know my stomach churned, a heavy weight settling in my chest. But she didn't deserve that. Why wouldn't she just run? Hide. That's the thing about home. It's complicated. You can't just run from the storm that's inside your own walls. Her eyes searched mine, seeking understanding. That note you found isn't just a joke. It's real. There are people who look for weakness, and she's been their target for a long time. That I swallowed hard, grappling with her words. Every moment I had spent searching for a way into her life became a pile of jagged fragments. The laughter in the hall, the way her fingers twirled the mop, the fear in her eyes. What if I want to help her? Ava regarded me seriously. Then you have to be ready for the consequences. She's not just fighting her battle. This isn't a fairy tale where love conquers all, it's real. Her world is dark, and it may swallow you whole. The truth of her words washed over me like ice water. I could feel the weight of it settling on my shoulders as I sank into the padded cafe chair. I wanted to save her, but I could feel the creeping fear within me. I just can't let her face this alone, I declared firmly. I couldn't bear it if I didn't at least try. Ava nodded, though anxiety clouded her expression. Just be careful. And if you do go after her, do it on your own terms. She might not be ready to talk. With determination brewing in my heart, I made a silent vow to reach for her, to show her that someone could be there for her, always. I wanted to see the hidden strength behind her fears, to celebrate the beauty in her scars. After that meeting, I felt galvanized. I found myself gravitating towards the school at odd hours, trying to carve out moments where our paths might cross again. And then, one day, as I lingered outside the school just before dusk, I saw her silhouette emerge, mop in hand, framed against the golden hues of the setting sun. My breath caught, but before I could call to her, I noticed something shifting in the shadows behind her, a group of figures loitering in the darkened alleyway. I got twisted as I squinted, recognizing the faces of the very gang who had tormented her before. Fear clawed at my insides, igniting a primal instinct to protect. The blurred lines of reason and emotion collided as I stepped forward, my voice shaking with urgency. "Mia, look out!" But as I sprinted forward, a shrill laugh screeched through the air. "Oh, look who we have here, the freak's little friend." Mia turned, eyes wide with panic as she took a step back, but before I could reach her, the world spun into chaos. The figures closed in, and I felt the surge of adrenaline fuel my every move. I would reach her, no matter what, but before I could grasp her hand, a sickening crack echoed in the air. The scene before me snapped into sharp focus, and terror gripping my heart, I was left standing frozen, watching everything unravel before my very eyes. In that blazing moment, as hearts raced and screams swallowed the air, the world felt heavy with uncertainty. The storm was no longer hers alone, it had washed over me, too, and I could feel the tremors reverberate deep within my soul. The echoes of chaos faded into a suffocating silence as the group of figures drew away, laughter morphing into a distant memory, like a cruel echo drifting off into the night. I stood frozen, heart pounding like a war drum in my chest. Everything blurred for a moment as I locked eyes with Mia, wide-eyed and trembling, her mop clattering to the ground. "Mia!" The urgency burst from my lips, and I rushed forward, the desire to shield her surging through me like a tidal wave. But before I could reach her, her body recoiled, and she took a step back, as if my presence carried the weight of suffocating shadows. "Don't," she whispered, fear lacing her voice. "Just don't." The word struck deeper than intended, wrapping tightly around my heart like a noose. I halted, confusion and heartbreak churning in my gut. "But please, go," she pleaded, her eyes darting back to the alley where the figures had dissolved into the night, the empathy flickering in her gaze like a dying flame. "You don't understand. They'll come for you too. Just please, leave me alone." That I opened my mouth, searching for words to bridge the chasm shed placed between us, but nothing came. Instead, the churning maelstrom of emotions left me grappling with my own inadequacy. "Mia, I want to help you. You don't have to. The harder you fight to help, the worse it will get for me. I can't let you get hurt because of me," she cut in, her voice trembling still. In that moment, I felt how different her world was from mine. The invisible wall holding her captive felt high and impenetrable, and I was not the hero she needed. I was just a boy entangled in a tragedy I couldn't begin to understand. "Please." Her voice broke, and for the first time, a single tear slipped from her eye, tracing a path down her cheek. "Just go. For your own sake, for what little safety we have left." Every instinct within me screamed to defy her, to push through the defense she'd built with so much pain. But her fear twisted something deep inside me, revealing a truth I hadn't wanted to face. I had been imagining her life through my own lens, without truly comprehending the dangers that lurked in her shadows. "You'll figure things out," I said, though the words felt empty. "You're not alone, Mia. You don't have to face this alone." Before she could respond, I saw the fear transform into something darker, something feral. "You don't understand." She spun away, her mask slipping, and for the briefest moment, I caught a glimpse of the storm within her. "I can't let them take you away from me." Anger began to swirl in my head as confusion gave way. "Take me away? What are you talking about?" She turned back, voice low and trembling with conviction. "You think you can save me? You have no idea who they are or what they're capable of. They're everywhere. I'm not worth it." The words pierced me like a shard of ice, collecting in my throat and pressing harshly against my chest. "What do you mean, you're not worth it?" I implored, fists clenching at my sides. "Everyone is better off without me," she murmured with a chilling resignation that dripped with the weight of her reality. There was no bravado left in her, duty, sacrifice, and despair seemed sewn into the very fabric of her being. "No, no, that's not true." I reached toward her, desperate to make her see the worth I saw, the strength behind her vulnerability. You're more than what they've made you believe. You have a light that it doesn't matter, she interrupted sharply, and despair washed over her features. You don't know what I've done to survive this long. You can't expect me to let you in now. You have to leave while you still can. That I wanted to reach across the widening space between us, to pull her back to safety. But a sinking despair enveloped me as I watched her crumble slightly, shoulders shaking as she turned to face the ground. What stood before me was the remnants of a girl who had fought through unfathomable battles, and yet, she felt defeated. The moment stretched, an unbearable silence hanging between us, until I finally found the courage to step back, my heart aching with every step away from her. I won't stop trying, I promised, my voice barely above a whisper, yet I felt the heaviness of her retreating figure pressing against my resolve. As I turned to leave, a chill rushed through the air, giving me pause. In that instant, everything changed. It was as if the very ground beneath me trembled with impending danger. There, visibility dimmed in the twilight, I noticed something lurking, a figure emerging from the darkness of the alley. The pulse of fear returned, something dark and familiar. It was one of them, one of Mia's tormentors, intent on reminding her of the nightmare she faced. Time warped as I stood rooted in place. My pulse surged uncontrollably, the fight or flight instinct rearing its head again, but this time, it wasn't just a choice to protect her, there was something even stronger coursing through my veins, the knowledge that if I turned away now, I would be leaving her to face that shadow alone. The stakes had shifted, and the truth unfurled before me like a revelation. This wasn't just Mia's battle anymore. Somehow, it was staring back at me, a tempest threatening to swallow us both whole, and I knew, as the swirling tide of black surged forward, that I couldn't walk away. The figure stepped closer, and with each inch, my heart ricocheted wildly in my chest. I hadn't truly grasped the weight of my decision until now. The reality of standing between Mia and her fears gripped me with relentless force, grounding me in place while dread coiled in my stomach. Don't! I shouted, instinctively raising an arm as if to shield Mia from whatever darkness approached. The stranger emerged into dim light, the glimmer of their eyes fanned the flame of my growing terror. They were more than just a shadow, there was an unfathomable menace burrowed in the depths of their gaze. Mia, caught in the undertow of my fear, stepped backwards, clinging onto the remnants of the bravery she had shown just moments earlier. "Run!" she screamed, her voice cracking. "Get out of here!" My feet felt as heavy as they were rooted in concrete. Every muscle in my body screamed to obey her, yet an unshakable resolve pulsed through me. "I won't leave you, Mia!" I shouted defiantly, feeling the tremors of the ground reverberate beneath me, a prelude to the chaos that would surely erupt. "Please, just go. It's not worth it," she cried, tears mixing with the grime on her cheeks. The pain and desperation in her voice sent a spear of anguish through me. I was unsure if she was pleading for my safety or her own, but the conflicting desires within her churned the atmosphere, making it hard to breathe. In stark contrast, the encroaching figure merely chuckled, a sound devoid of warmth or humanity. "Cute," they murmured, savoring the blend of dread and hope that crackled in the air. "But you're far too late to play the hero." I recognized the twisted amusement in their eyes, a reflection of the sickness that seemed to pool in the corners of that nightmare world. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of defiance and fear. The figure stepped closer, and I caught my breath as their face slipped into the light, revealing a smug grin marred by scars and malevolence. "Her." They pointed at Mia, whose eyes widened with horror like a deer caught in headlights. "You see, sweet girl. I told you it was only a matter of time before your little world came crashing down. What are you gonna do? Hurt her?" The words came out in a fierce growl, and I felt an instinctive protectiveness surge within me, my stance widening as I positioned myself in front of Mia. "Oh, it's not what I'm going to do, but what's already been done," they sneered, their eyes dancing with malicious glee. "Mia has some quite valuable tales buried inside her. Tales that could bring chaos to your little world. My boss has been waiting for a chance to collect what's owed." A chill crept into the pit of my stomach. "What do you mean?" My voice faltered, but I pressed on, eyes locked on the figure, desperate to pull any thread of understanding from their twisted games. What's owed? Mia's gaze slipped from the figure to mine, a fragile flicker of fear sparking in her eyes. No, no, don't listen to them. But she was too late. Panic surged through the air thick as molasses. Do you remember the girl who disappeared last summer? The figure continued, their smirk widening. The one everyone whispered about. Mia here knows more than you think. She was part of something far darker than she'd ever dared to share. The words hit me like a punch to the gut, leaving me breathless. Mia? Tell me this isn't true. I turned to her, searching for any sign of hope, but all I found was a fractured reflection of her guilt and despair. She began, yet her voice quavered and cracked under the pressure of the truth slamming against her. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. A flash of something deeper flickered in Mia's eyes, something more profound and consuming. She was carrying the weight of memories she had buried, hurting beneath the surface, yet at that moment, I felt the shores of her past crashing against the walls she'd constructed for her own protection. What does it matter? You're nothing but a puppet, the figure cackled, advancing another step, their presence looming over us. To think you could ever escape this. But rather than cower, a flicker of determination ignited within Mia. The storm brewing behind her eyes shifted, and with it, a courage lost to the ages began to surface. You think I'm nothing? You don't know who I am, she declared, the inflection of her voice shifting into something that sent shivers rippling through the air. Pathetic. The figure scoffed, but in their voice lay hints of uncertainty, an unexpected crack in their confident facade. Mia. I said, sensing the change. Whatever it is, please, just tell me. We can work through this together. Her trembling fingers reached towards mine, finding comfort and strength as we locked eyes.